HR, the beckoning call of Black Hollow. I never should have taken that job. When I answered the email from Black Hollow Forestry, I figured it was just another remote surveying gig. A week alone in a deep, uncharted section of Appalachian wilderness, taking soil samples and marking potential logging zones. Easy money. I'd done it a dozen times before. But Black Hollow wasn't on any map. And by the time I realized that, I was already too far in to turn back. The helicopter dropped me off at the coordinates late in the afternoon. Just me, my pack, and my radio. The pilot, a wiry man with too many scars for someone who supposedly just flew transport, didn't even cut the engine as I stepped out. "You sure you want to do this?" he shouted over the roar of the blades. "Yeah. Just a week of peace and quiet." He didn't laugh. Instead, he shoved a battered old compass into my hand. "Your GPS won't work past sundown," he said. "Use this to get out. And if you hear anything at night, don't answer it." Before I could ask what the hell he meant, he was gone. The first day was uneventful. The trees here were old, wrongly old. Some of them didn't match the native species found in Appalachia. Thick, moss-choked things with twisting black roots that looked more like veins than wood. The deeper I went, the stranger it got. I found bones in places where nothing larger than a squirrel should be. Elk skulls wedged between tree branches. Rib cages split open and picked clean, left sitting in the center of winding deer trails. And then, as the sun dipped below the horizon, my GPS flickered and died. I wasn't worried at first. I had the compass, and my tent was already set up. But that first night, as I lay in my sleeping bag, I heard something moving just beyond the tree line. Not walking. Mimicking? A soft shuffling, like bare feet against dead leaves, then silence. A second later, I heard my own voice whispering from the dark. "A hello." My stomach turned to ice. I stayed still, barely breathing. The voice repeated, slightly closer this time. "A hello." Exactly the same cadence, the same intonation, like a perfect recording. I clenched my jaw and forced myself to remain silent. My hand drifted toward my hatchet, the only weapon I had. The voice called out again, but I refused to answer. After what felt like hours, the footsteps retreated. The forest went back to its natural stillness. I didn't sleep. The next few days blurred together in a haze of exhaustion. The deeper I went, the worse the feeling of being watched became. At one point, I found my own boot prints in the mud, miles from where I had been. On the fifth night, the whispers started again. But this time, it wasn't just my voice. It was my mother's, my father's. Voices of people I knew, people who had no reason to be in the middle of nowhere, calling to me in the dead of night. "Help me! It hurts. Please, just come see." I clenched my teeth so hard I thought they'd crack. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Then, from just outside my tent, so close I could hear its breath, came a new voice. A harrowing one. "We see you." I broke camp before dawn, moving faster than I ever had before. I didn't care about the contract, about the samples. I just needed to leave. But the forest had changed. The trees were wrong, twisting at impossible angles. The sky never fully brightened, remaining a murky, overcast gray. The compass spun uselessly in my palm. The whispers continued, always just behind me. Then, around noon, I saw it. A clearing opened ahead, bathed in dim, stagnant light. In the center stood a figure. It was tall, too tall. Its limbs were elongated, its fingers tapering to needle-like points. Its head was wrong, an almost human face stretched over something that wasn't a skull. And it was smiling. Not with its mouth, its entire face was smiling, skin shifting in ways that made my stomach churn. And then it spoke. Not aloud. Inside my head. You are leaving? It wasn't a question. It was a command. I stumbled backward, nodding frantically. My feet barely touched the ground as I turned and ran. I didn't look back. The helicopter was already waiting for me at the extraction point. The pilot didn't say a word as I climbed in, breathless and shaking. We lifted off, the dense canopy swallowing the clearing below. Only then did I glance back. They were all there. Figures, dozens of them, standing in the shadows just beyond the trees. Watching. Not chasing. Not waving. Just watching. The pilot must have seen them too, because he tightened his grip on the controls. As the forest shrank into the distance, he finally spoke. You didn't answer them, did you? I shook my head. He nodded, satisfied. Good. Then, quieter. They don't like it when you answer. I never went back. The paycheck was wired to my account a week later, but Black Hollow Forestry no longer existed. No website, no records, no proof that I had ever been hired. But I still have the compass. It doesn't point north anymore. And sometimes, in the dead of night, it spins,